So who would have thunk it? That giving your information, your DNA, all the good stuff to some random company across the internet would be a bad idea. So in today's bit of internet goodness, we've got an article from Gizmodo, which is about ancestry companies selling your information or giving your information to the government. So this article came out a few days ago, but I just now stumbled across it looking into stuff from my last video. But in any case, I thought it was interesting to cover because this is something I've thought about for some time. My wife and I have talked about these like ancestry sites like 23andMe, and people keep sending them their DNA, and what do you get from it? Like, the question is the risk worth the reward, you know? And I'm not so sure it is. I haven't read this article yet, but let's go ahead and dive into it and see exactly what's going on here. So this article here is by Jennings Brown, and it's Ancestry-Testing company. It's our moral responsibility to give the FBI access to your DNA. So, like, where does the moral responsibility begin? Because DNA wasn't always a thing. Like, it's always been a thing, but they didn't know how to harness it. And, not that we really know how to harness it completely now, but we can use it a little bit. And suddenly, because we can do that now, they have a moral obligation. Like, when did this moral obligation start? That's kind of a whole thing with technology and morality kind of clashing and things like that. So that's a whole nother debate. Anyway, let's get into it. A popular DNA testing company seems to be targeting true crime fans with a new pitch to let them share their genetic information with law enforcement so cops can catch violent criminals. Now, on the surface, that sounds fine. Like, yeah, we want to be able to catch the bad guys. But the thing is, like, how much freedom, how much of your anonymity are you willing to sacrifice for security, for the peace of mind that bad people are getting caught? And it's also to suggest that there's no better way to do it, that you have to sacrifice your freedom in order to do that. Like, as technology progresses, maybe better methods could be used, and you don't have to sacrifice your privacy to do these things. 2 months ago, Family Tree DNA raised privacy concerns after BuzzFeed revealed the company had partnered with the FBI and given the agency access to the genealogy database. Is it database or database? Is it data or data? I don't know. I use both just randomly. Law enforcement's use of DNA databases has been widely known since last April, when California officials revealed genealogy website information was instrumental in determining the identity of the Golden State Killer. But in that case, detectives used publicly shared raw genetic data on GED Match. GED Match? Is this like a dating website for people with GEDs? The recent news about Family Tree DNA marked the first known time a home DNA test company had willingly shared private genetic information with law enforcement. So this wasn't like some official thing. This was like one of those, would send you a cotton swab and you swab your mouth or whatever. I don't know. I've never used them. I'm assuming that's one of those, kind of like 23andMe. Several weeks later, Family Tree DNA changed their rules to allow customers to block the FBI from accessing their information. Seems like that's probably where you should have started. Users now have the ability to opt out of matching with DNA relatives whose accounts are flagged as being created to identify the remains of a deceased individual or a perpetrator of a homicide or sexual assault, the company said in a statement at the time. That was kind of a salad of information to take in. What? You have the ability to opt out of matching with DNA relatives whose accounts are flagged as being created to identify the remains of a deceased individual. Does this mean anything? What is that even saying? That sounds like extremely specific. Obviously it depends on like their internal workings of how the company handles this stuff, but like, what was that? Maybe I'm just dumb. But now the company seems to be embracing this partnership with law enforcement with their new campaign called Families Want Answers. Now they're appealing to your emotion. Do you empathize with families who want answers? So you should sacrifice your privacy for that. The company plans to air a new advertisement this week in San Francisco that features Ed Smart, father of Elizabeth Smart, who was abducted in 2002 and held captive for 9 months before being rescued. So not that this is a bad thing, I'm not really critiquing it. Like, there's not nearly enough information here to make a judgment, but it just sounds kind of weird. Like I said, the term they're using, families want answers, using Elizabeth Smart's dad for this ad and things is like, that doesn't mean there isn't like a genuine desire to help people and to use this technology for good. But it also comes off a bit like marketing gimmick, like, we're doing this thing, so we have to make sure that we frame it in a way that people are okay with. And again, it's not that the ends don't justify the means. Sometimes doing these types of things is good for the greater good, in the long term. But I just kind of err on the side of privacy. I don't really know if giving companies, even if it's being used properly here, like let's just say this is all on the level, it kind of opens a door that maybe we don't want to open. And we have to be very careful about it. Doesn't mean that this is definitely a no-go. It just means that we definitely need to be careful about where this kind of stuff is going and how readily we're willing to just walk in this direction. In the ad, Ed Smart makes a plea for people to share their DNA so they can help families who have lost a child. When a loved one is a victim of a violent crime, families want answers, he says as the ad shows footage of a child's shoe on a playground. Crime scene tape and parents embracing. There is more DNA available at crime scenes than any other evidence. If you are one of the millions of people who have taken a DNA test, your help can provide the missing link. I can't read today, I don't know why. So far, they're not really debunking my suspicion that they're kind of purposefully trying to tug at people's heartstrings in order to make this okay. And again, I'm not saying I'm right. I'm not saying that it's, malicious in intent or anything like that. It's just, it's appeal to emotion of a decision that should include logic. Like, people need to rationalize this and make sure that this can be done properly. And can it be done properly? I don't know. Even if it's done properly now and continues to be done properly for the next 50 years, that doesn't mean eventually it would be abused. And there's the question there of, should we forego doing something good because there's a possibility it could be abused? There's a lot of tough questions. But I just feel like even though they are presenting a genuine situation, a scenario, it's kind of manipulative, and we have to be careful of that, that's all. Family Tree DNA did not immediately respond to a Gizmodo request for comment. That sounds kind of funny. They didn't respond to a Gizmodo request. Gizmodo sounds like a funny word to me. Anyway, on whether the new ad campaign was a response to recent reporting on the company's arrangement with FBI. Yeah, there's no way they would be using this, tugging on the heartstrings and appealing to people's emotional empathy. Is that a good way to phrase that? To get the company out of hot water for sharing information, and only later being like, oh, you can opt out, guys. That was a good idea. In a public statement, Family Tree DNA's president and founder Bennett Greenspan seemed to appeal to both genealogy hobbyists and true crime fans. The genealogy community has the ability to crowdsource crime solving. Ugh. They're really trying to they're trying to get people who like Law and Order to agree with this. If Family Tree DNA can help prevent violent crimes, save lives, or bring closure to families, then we feel the company has a moral responsibility to do so. Anyone ever seen the movie Minority Report, where they have this weird futuristic setup of psychics or something, and they can use that and harness that power to stop crimes from happening? You get arrested for your future crimes. I'm sure there was a good case for that idea too. Or there will be, whenever that becomes a thing. It could happen. The press release states that the company's terms of service only allow law enforcement to receive private customer information through a valid legal process such as a subpoena or a search warrant. Family Tree DNA users may have a moral responsibility to decide if they want to opt out of sharing their data with law enforcement or risk having their DNA narc on them or their family members. As you can see, at first glance, it sounds like it could be okay. Maybe this is a good thing. This is a way of the future, so that your DNA could somehow lead to the capture of a violent criminal. Seems like a net positive, and what does it hurt you, Your DNA's out there, and no one's going to use it for anything wrong. It's always just going to be used in the right way, and everything's very secure and on the level, because that's how things always are. They always start out with good intentions and they never get abused. So there it is. What do you think about this? Do you think that it's safe to be throwing your DNA all over the internet so that the company can decide how and when they're going to share your information and for what purpose? And there's what do you think the chances are that this could be abused? Do you think it's a net positive, a net gain for society, or is there too much risk and too little reward? Now, saying too little reward sounds very crass, and a lot of people probably aren't going to agree with that phrasing, but you have to think about the bigger picture, the whole of society, and what these kinds of things can do to people in the future, what the implications are. Because even if we have the most promising, innocent, pure, genuine intentions to make the world a better place, that doesn't mean that opening these doors doesn't allow evil to creep through. So I'm cautious of it. That's why I've never really considered seriously doing any of these DNA test things to see where you're from and who your ancestors are and like your genetic makeup and whatnot. It's kind of useless information. What are you going to do with it? Medically, it could have some positive results. You can kind of figure out some things about yourself and maybe help your life to be healthier. But wouldn't it be better just to kind of take general healthy steps in your life and try to live better and maybe see if there's a way to medically go through a proper system to protect your information a little bit better? I don't know. What do you think? That's going to be it for me, though. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, make sure you hit the like button. If you want to see more of this kind of stuff, let me know. And also subscribe. The end.